guys, welcome to First Buzz. Today is a question. So I was asked how old was I when I first started wearing makeup. So then it was this kind of like a big old discussion and things like that. And there was an article online about parents actually, not quite encouraging, but more like supporting their kids and wearing makeup and things like that. So the question came to me, and I wanted to ask you guys, how old were you when you first started wearing makeup or nail polish or any of that beauty stuff, and just kind of what are your memories of it? So for me, I started probably as soon as I was able to like crawl over to my mom's makeup. I was like all over that stuff. When she would put on her makeup, I would pick out like a hot pink red or a hot pink or like a red, and I'd ask her to put it on me, and then she'd put it on, I was like little, so I had little tiny little red lips, and I would sit there in the mirror and just kind of pucker up. And I've talked about this story before, but I would just sit there and kind of, look at little red lipstick, and then when we'd go, I would have to wipe it off, and then it'd be all sad. But, I carried my little purse, my little Bonnie Bell lipsticks and lip glosses, like those little kid stuff. I think there was one like natural something, or it was like clear, but it smelled like fruit. Oh, I love that stuff. And then occasionally my mom would get like free stuff from like Clinique, and then she would give it to me and I would play. And it's funny because even then as a child, I would always put makeup like all over my hands. And so I painted my nails like at the age of 3 too, and I did it myself, and my dad said, no, you can't do that. And so I would wear it on my toes. I'm looking at my toes right now. But I would wear it on my toes, and I would wear glitter, and then like eventually I would wear it on my nails, and then kind of just graduate to like frosty pinks and glitters. And as a child, I still had to wear very light, natural little kid colors and lots of glitter. My mom hated that I wore glitter because it was so hard to remove, because I would want to remove it like all the time for like the next color, like little stickers and the kind that you dip in water and then you stick it on. Yeah, like I did all that stuff. And then in elementary school, I didn't wear anything, but I remember this, is that when I was in 5th grade, a lot of the 6th grade girls, because I had a combination class, they wanted to wear makeup. So my teacher was like, oh, you guys are getting to that age. And she wanted to make sure that we didn't wear our makeup in an inappropriate manner, and she wanted to make sure that it was appropriate for our age. So at our school, there wasn't really any rules about makeup, and of course, they're like, don't wear makeup. But what my teacher did was, if you had your parents' permission that you could wear makeup, then she would let you wear makeup. So that way, it wasn't like you were sneaking to school wearing makeup. And so, there's a handful of the popular girls that wore their lipsticks and makeup, and my mom said no, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever, I wasn't really into it. And so we had this class, and my teacher invited like a friend, a makeup artist, over to the class, 5th and 6th grade. All the girls sat there. I don't know where the boys were, but maybe they were in there too. I have no idea. Anyway, so she talked about makeup application, and she talked about products, and she talked about what to use, and I think it was really great, because the one thing that really stuck in my mind was she said never to use Vaseline or petroleum jelly to remove your eye makeup. So growing up, I already knew not to, because I tried it, learned the hard way, and I couldn't see, and I just like globbed it on, and for like, I don't know, I couldn't remember if it was like a day or two. I couldn't, like, my vision was blurry. So when she told us that, not to wear petroleum jelly or to remove with it, I was like, oh yeah, I knew that. So she said that it can cause blindness or blurring, over time. So she told me, or she told us at a young age not to use that product. And I remember her talking about like foundations, and she said that we shouldn't use it at a young age. It will clog pores. And so I thought it was a really great experience to sit there and listen to a makeup artist talk about makeup and how to properly use it. And then in 7th grade, I didn't wear any makeup. I wore sunblock. My mom gave me Clinique City Block, and I think that's the one that's like tinted in the green tube. And so I wore that every day, so I guess that's considered makeup. And then I would sometimes wear like nude lip liners and Jordana, I think that was the brand. So sometimes I wear like a little bit of maroon. I grew up in a school where there was a lot of girls that had painted on eyebrows and painted on lips. And so, we were familiar with Wet n Wild, and a lot of girls wore the black lip liner with the maroon inside. And so I wore that in like 7th or 8th grade, did the lip liner and the sunblock, but I didn't wear anything else. My mom didn't let me wear mascara. She said the mascara would make my eyelashes fall out, and I didn't really have any to begin with, so not that big of a deal. And then in 8th grade, I started breaking out. So that's when I started with the concealer, like on my chin. And I remember for picture day, you know, it was like a full face of foundation, but that was it. Like I couldn't wear it any other day. Just the sunblock. Mom said sunblock, sunblock. And then in 8th grade was when I started to color my hair. I used Sun-In, we used lemon. Once my hair was blonde, we used Kool-Aid to color. It didn't really work out so well because my hair was so dark. And then in 9th grade, I started highlighting and dyeing. And ever since then, I've dyed my hair. Like, I haven't really gone through, I don't know, like a 2-year period where I haven't, or 2-month period where I haven't dyed my hair. So, started that really early, became addicted. I used to highlight my own hair, highlight friends' hair, and all that stuff. You know, took like professional products and developers and just kind of had lots of fun with it. And then in freshman, and then all through high school, I just wore sunblock and I wore lipstick. And then, after the hair dyeing and the sunblock, I started to wear foundation because my skin was getting bad. And my mom's like, okay, put a little concealer on. And the little bit of concealer turned into like, oh, a little here, a little here, a little here. And very soon it was just like all over the place. And I remember reading an article about Gwen Stefani because what I would do is when I ran out is what I would stick like the back of like an eyeliner or whatever into the bottle, mix it up, and then get it on my face. I didn't know any better, right? And I would always apply it with my fingers. And I remember reading an article in a YM magazine about Gwen Stefani having really bad skin and how she didn't really take care of her makeup products and how she did what I did. And I was like, oh my God, that's so gross. And oh, maybe that's why I'm breaking out. And so I changed up my routine. I bought a powder brush from Sally's. It was like $8. It was really rough too, but I didn't know any better. And so I started using that to apply my foundation, and my skin was just okay. You know, I used Lancome Mackie Control or something like that. I don't remember. And so I used that because my mom had this big thing about drugstore skin products, and she said that my skin was already really bad, and you know, I don't want to use any cheap products on it. And so she gave me a bottle and I had to use it like sparingly. And it wasn't bad. My skin wasn't really bad. My family did have really bad skin. It was more like when my dad was in his late teens was when he got really bad skin. And so that's what happened to me was when I was 19, my skin started getting a little bad. I also worked at Dairy Queen, you know, put on some weight there. But like I just kind of had really bad skin, like all the sugar, all the stress, college, all that stuff. So that's when I got on Accutane, and I talked to my doctor about it, and she said to try something that's oil-free, fragrance-free. She particularly mentioned Almay and Clinique. So I wore Almay for a long time, and it was really hard, you know, to match your color. I found a color, I think Sand. That one worked for me, and then, you know, I made some money and things like that, and I made some money and I was able to buy products from Lancome and Clinique and, you know, kind of upgraded from there because your skin's very important and you should buy good products for your skin, and especially products that work with your skin. If you have sensitive skin, you should cater to your sensitive skin. And then, so throughout that whole time, I watched my mom put on her blush, her mascara, curlers, lash curler. Like, I knew how to do all of that stuff. I just wasn't really officially, like, allowed to put on all that stuff. So then when I started working at Robinson May, I had a lot of girls at the counter that were friends. And so I watched them, I learned from them, and the rest is history. So on a daily basis now, I wear moisturizer and a little bit of concealer where I need to, and that's it. And then it's like special occasion, I'll put on like foundation and eyeshadow and like tutorials and things like that. But on a regular basis, I like to let my skin breathe, and I just like to like let it relax. You know, I wear the Struvectin around my eyes, I wear the Clarins sunblock around my eyes, and then I go with my Boscia moisturizer, and then I wash with my face. So I'll go into detail with all that stuff too, but that's just my little history of my makeup experience. And then in high school, what I forgot to mention was like color stuff. So I always bought Revlon, you know, all the drugstore stuff because I didn't know any better. I always bought buy one get one free, and I never knew the pigmentation that came hand in hand with like a higher end product would have more pigmentation, so I would use it less versus like Revlon or Maybelline where you're like, you know, you're getting down to the pan and you barely have any black to make like a smoky eye. But of course things have changed now where there are like highly pigmented drugstore products, so that's a really good thing. And I guess that's it. So I want to know, what is your makeup history? When did you start? What was your experience? What did you learn and all that stuff? Please send a response down below and then I'll accept it, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!